Brought to you by Penguin.
Sisterland by Curtis Sittenfeld. Read for you by Rebecca Lowman. Prologue. December 1811, New Madrid, Louisiana Territory. The first earthquake wasn't the strongest. That would come later, in February 1812, but it must have been the most astonishing. It occurred shortly after 2 a.m, and I imagine it awakening the people of New Madrid, the farmers and fur traders, the French Creoles and Indians and American pioneers. More men than women lived in the river town, and few families. The population was probably less than 1,000. The people were lying in their beds on this cold and ordinary night when, without warning, a tremendous cracking sound interrupted the quiet, a growing thunder, followed by the impossible fact of the quake itself. The rocking not just of their beds or floors or houses, but of the land beneath them. Whether they stayed inside or hurried out, they'd have heard their animals crying, heard trees snapping, the Mississippi roaring up. So much fog and smoke filled the darkness that they would have felt the roll of the earth before they realized they could see it too, undulating like the ocean. In some places, the ground split apart and flung up water, sand, and rocks, entire trees it had swallowed shortly before, and in turn it devoured horses and cows. Rising out of the cracks and holes was the smell of sulfur, like the wicked breath of the devil, emanating from deep underground. For hours the convulsions didn't stop, and when eventually their bewildering rhythm changed, it was not to decrease, but to intensify. Twice more, at 7 a.m. and again at 11, the earth exploded anew. And daybreak had not brought light. Still there was the chaos of vapors, the bleats and squawks of domesticated and wild animals, the collapsing trees and spewing land and mercilessly teeming river. Only around noon did the earth settle, and only gradually. But what was left? The people's homes, one-story log or frame structures, were leveled, as were the town's stores and churches. The land was broken, the river roiling. The banks of the Mississippi had simply plunged into the water below, carrying with them houses, graveyards, and forests. Canoes and keelboats had vanished under 30-foot waves, reappeared, and vanished again. Though it must have seemed, on the afternoon of December 16, 1811, that the world was ending, more destruction would follow. In this same remote area, another powerful quake occurred on January 23, 1812, and 2 weeks later, on February 7th, the last and biggest. In just months, whole towns disappeared, not only from the Louisiana Territory, soon to become the territory of Missouri, but also from the Mississippi Territory and Tennessee. People claimed that the Mississippi River ran backward and that the effects of the quakes were felt hundreds of miles away, that clocks stopped in Natchez, chimneys collapsed in Louisville, and church bells rang in Boston. But perhaps these myths were merely that, embellishments more irresistible than accurate. Magnitude scales wouldn't exist for another century, so calculations of the New Madrid quakes came long afterward, and though the highest estimates placed them above 8.0, stronger than the 1906 earthquake in San Francisco, the strongest of any continental earthquake in United States history, other guesses were closer to a magnitude 7, which would have made them frightening, certainly, but not unprecedented. My husband would say that such distinctions matter, that there are ways of conducting research and establishing hypotheses based on credible evidence. My sister would disagree. She would say that we create our own reality, that the truth, ultimately, is what we choose to believe. Chapter 1. September 2009, St. Louis, Missouri. The shaking started around 3 a.m, and it happened that I was already awake because I'd nursed Owen at 2, and then instead of going back to sleep, I'd lain there brooding about the fight.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?